there, Yarnsters! Welcome back to another episode of Yarn. I'm Teacher Nina, and I have another great story for you today. Lunar New Year is fast approaching. Have you begun preparation to ring in the new year? Make sure you check out my Did You Know segment about Lunar New Year if you haven't done so yet. It'll give you a good introduction about what it is. Today, I have an old legend for you. It's about a nasty old monster called Nian and how he was the reason why people nowadays put up red decorations and light fireworks for Lunar New Year. Are you ready? Let's get started! A super duper long time ago in a small village in the mountains of China, there lived a very nasty monster called Nian. Nian slept in the mountains throughout the whole year. But for 2 weeks at the beginning of the year, he would wake up from his deep slumber really hungry, and he would go to the village to feast on the farm animals and crops and even the village children. Each year, he would destroy the village as he searched for and ate all their food. The villagers lived in fear of Nian and would dread the new year. They were helpless because they were so small and Nian was so big and nasty. All they can do at New Year was hide in their houses and lock up their animals and pray that Nian would spare them that year. One year, while everyone was busy locking up their food and hiding their farm animals, a monk wandered into their village in search for some food. He walked up to an old man who was busy nailing a big piece of wood to his window and asked him, "My dear sir, I am but a hungry old monk. Could you please spare some food so I have the strength to continue on to the next village?" Without missing a beat of his hammer, the old man replied, "Can't you see I'm busy? Come back in 2 weeks and see if there will be any food left after Nian has left." The monk was now curious of who this Nian was and why he should come back in 2 weeks to see if there would be any food. May I ask, who is this Nian you speak of?" he asked the old man. The old man stopped hammering, shocked that this monk has never heard of this evil monster that torments the village year after year. Nian? Nian is that hideous monster, mean and old. He comes out of hibernation every New Year and feasts on everything he can get his claws on in the village. That's why we have to hide everything. He does this for 2 whole weeks till he gets full. Then he returns home to the mountains and leaves us with nothing but destruction. Well, the monk has never heard of such a monster, and he decided to stay the night to see for himself what this Nian monster can do. So, he made a campfire for himself in an old shed at the edge of the village and waited up all night. He had nothing to keep him warm during the night but an old red blanket that he carried with him and his little fire. Then, just a little past midnight, he heard a loud rumbling from the mountains as Nian made his way toward the village. The monk was frozen with fear as he saw a big ball of dust approach him. Nian was so big and fast that the monk couldn't see anything but a blur followed by dust and debris. Just as he thought Nian was going to crash right into him, he heard a loud roar and Nian made a sharp turn, went around him, and disappeared into the darkness of the village. Curiosity got the better of the monk, and he mustered up enough courage to go and find Nian in the village. He picked up a large stick from his campfire and used it as a torch to light his way through the village. As he made his way up and down the village streets, he started to notice that whenever he thought he was getting closer to Nian, Nian would see his red blanket, which was made brighter by his torch, and he would run away from him. Or he would be frightened away by the loud noises the monk made from accidentally knocking over some old pots and pans on the street. This went on pretty much the whole night as the monk tried to get closer to Nian. This monk, who was a very wise monk, for he has traveled far and wide for many years, had finally figured out a way to protect the village from Nian. The next morning, as the villagers came out to check on the damage from the previous night, the monk gathered them around the center of the village and told them his theory. "Dear frightened villagers, you will certainly have a good New Year this year, for I have discovered a way to ward off Nian and stop him from tormenting you. All I ask in return is for you to share a little of your food with me." A skeptical farmer broke the silence and shouted at the monk. "Foolish monk! If you can show us how to keep Nian away, I will personally hold a feast on your behalf." "My dear sir, I do not need a feast. A simple meal will do. Gather round all and listen carefully." The monk explained to everyone how he had discovered the night before that Nian seemed to be scared of fire and the red color of his blanket. He suggested everyone put up red paper on the outside of their houses and doors and to hang red lanterns up to keep the village lit. He urged children to wear red so that Nian would not come near them and eat them. He also told them that Nian didn't like loud noises and suggested they bang on drums and make lots of loud noises to prevent Nian from entering the village. So, the entire village spent the whole day preparing for nighttime when Nian would come back around. When they had finished just after sunset, the whole village glowed warmly from the red lanterns hung up along all the streets. Everyone was out banging on pots and pans and drums and having a wonderful time. So much so that they had almost forgotten about Nian. But before long, they heard a rumble from the mountains and they saw a big cloud of dust moving fast towards them. They started banging on their pots and pans harder and harder and louder. Some people even lit firecrackers. Sure enough, Nian stopped dead in his tracks before he had even cleared the edge of the forest at the base of the mountains. The big cloud of dust was now moving fast away from the village in the opposite direction. "Hooray!" shouted the whole village as they saw Nian run away. That night, they had a huge feast to thank the monk for his help. From that day on, people from all over China would put up red lanterns and decorations for New Year. Children would wear red and people would light firecrackers to keep Nian away. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. So, are you going to put up some red lanterns and scrolls this Lunar New Year? Do you know of anyone who celebrates this major holiday? Maybe you can ask them what they do to celebrate New Year. Don't forget to find out what zodiac animal you are and come and share it with me on YarnStoryFactory.com. Well, Yarnsters, that's all the time we have for today. I have to go and get ready for Lunar New Year. Until next time, this is Teacher Nina, wishing you 新年快樂，祝夢năm mới，新年快樂，Happy Lunar New Year! Goodbye!